$6.49 at Goodwill. So that's the perfect segue to what I want to talk about today. My one idea that everyone and everything deserves a second chance. So let me start with total honesty. Embodying this idea that everyone deserves a second chance is really hard for me. It requires me as a leader to be open, patient, and forgiving. And if you know anything about me, these are not words that people often use to describe me. Whether you want to admit it publicly or not, we all have a set of preconceived notions about people. My whole career has been about winning and being the best. My success was built on getting the work done and working with fiercely competitive people who were all high performers. I mean, White House Chief of Staff for the First Lady at age 38, that was no small feat. In politics and government, it was high stakes. I hired people who thought like me and had the same work ethic, and we got the job done. But as I reflect, I have to ask myself if that model was smart or sustainable. I'll admit that when I took the job at Goodwill almost 2 years ago, I arrived with a take no prisoners, change everything mindset. I made some really quick calculations that people that had been there for a while, that didn't jump up for joy with the new vision of the CEO, they weren't on board. I held preconceived notions that if they weren't on board, they weren't committed, and I really judged. And then I realized it takes two to tango. Was I being open? Was I being patient? Was I laying out a clear vision for the future? Was I seeking out the contrarians, the people who don't think like me or operate like me at the same pace as me? Was I giving these people the time they needed to adapt to change? Likely not. And it's not just about being open to my own employees. There are people who face barriers every day in getting hired. People that have made a mistake in life. Have you ever considered hiring someone that had a criminal record? Your initial reaction might have been the same as mine. Will they steal again? Will they harm again? Will they hurt again? And that is an expected reaction. But remember, we've all made mistakes. We are not perfect. So I encourage you to think just a little bit more about hiring talent in your workplace. Don't hide behind blanket corporate policies that say, we don't hire people with records, period, end of sentence. I encourage you to challenge that idea. And be prepared. The highs are high and the lows are low. Hiring people who need a second chance takes a bit of extra work and coaching. We've hired quite a few people at Goodwill that are flourishing in their roles. And we've hired a few people that have fell off the wagon, back to a life of drugs or alcohol or theft. But as leaders, what we know about these individuals is that they will bring a camaraderie and a growth in empathy in your workplace that all the trainings, simulations, and webinars will never be able to replicate. And with the unemployment rate so low in Iowa, we need people. It is our business reality. So ignore those populations at your own peril. Let's pivot to the second part of my idea. Everything deserves a second chance. Now, obviously, this is a shameless plug for Goodwill. But it is an idea that is replicable in every organization in America. How many of you have thrown out a paper that could have been used for scratch paper? How many of you have tossed out a promotional t-shirt that you may not have liked that could clothe someone without? How many of you have thrown out rubber bands that could have been recycled and sent to the post office? So maybe they wouldn't have to increase our rates again. Although 75% of America's waste is recyclable, we only recycle about 30% of it. Yes, short term, it might be cheaper to throw it out than to recycle. But innovations are changing in recycling practices, and so is the sentiment of the people we are hiring. I challenge you to think about your organization's impact on the degradation of the environment. I believe it will reap huge rewards in customer and employee loyalty in the long term. So let me end with a visual. That woman over there, can you see her? She's over there by the brown curtain. She's about to exit Mitchellville Correctional Facility, and she's heading to a job interview. The outfit was donated by a woman who lost 30 pounds. The shoes were donated by a family whose mom died at the ripe old age of 95. The purse was made by Katie Byers from an old law book. The portfolio, while a bit scratched up, held the notes of a person that is now CEO of a big organization. And that woman over there, she just landed the job. So remember, everyone and everything deserves a second chance.